So this is going to be basically a GDP refresher session on inventory counting and controlling, with a specific focus on the reports that support the best practices for preparing the cycle count. The duration is around 2 hours. We will have a short break, short 10 minutes break in the middle of the session. And if you are attending this WebEx, is because either you are a property management focal point or PIRO focal point in your mission, or an LP3 in GDP of peacekeeping missions. Also, I would like to thank subject matter experts that are going to join this session, and they are Sega Keleta, Kirill Serafimov, and Rafael Terres Cordova. As the audience is a quite large number, I'm going to mute all of you, and should you have any question or comment, you can either write it on the chat, and Brian will support in attending those questions, or you can make them at the end of the WebEx, where I will unmute all of you for your comments. Remember that if you want to raise any question or comment, please address it to all panelists in the chat. This WebEx is being recorded and will be shared with you. Also, this PowerPoint will be shared with you, and you will receive a link with a survey in order to ask your opinion on the session in 1 or 2 days. So what is the rationale of this session? As I said, this session is within the framework of the PIRO project. Some of you may be aware of what is the PIRO project taking place at this moment. The reason of this refresher session is to refresh on the best practices and tips and tricks on how to prepare for the inventory cycle, inventory count at the warehouse. Basically, what we want to do is to reduce the mismatch of quantities physically found and in Umoja by the time of doing the inventory count. So, in other words, we want to be well prepared system-wise before the inventory count exercise. Currently, we have the PIRO team in HQ have identified that there are a high number of open transfer orders that remain pending to be confirmed for a long time. This is a screenshot. I removed the, sorry. Okay, so this is the status of the missions. I just removed the name of the missions that are here at the bottom. Can you see my mouse? Yes, my mouse, yes. So this is, we have a picture of the status of the open transfer orders as of yesterday. In yellow color, you see what is the number of the transfer orders that need to be closed. And this is the number of this is the average number of days that they have been outstanding. And as you can see, it depends on the mission, but the aim is to help you to close all these outstanding transfer orders that are pending to be confirmed. This dashboard is made available by the PIRO team. I will share with you the link to the dashboard. Likewise, there are a number of transfer requirements that are pending to be followed by a transfer order. So this is your missions, and here we have in blue color what is the number of transfer requirements that are open, and this is the average of days that they have been outstanding. So this is another report that we would like to tackle, no? To look better after this WebEx and the WebEx on Thursday. Another reason for this WebEx is because there is a high number of open posting change notices that remain pending, and they are waiting to be followed by a transfer order. Likewise, we have in yellow color the number of open posting change notices and the average of days that they are open. So we were wondering if these statistics are due to maybe you do not know how to close them, or you want to know what is the status of this and how to get a report in order to take action on these open transactions. And this is what we are going to do today. Cycle count. It's all about planning, executing, and clearing differences. Here we have a calendar with a cycle count. We have 6 days that are in green, representing 6 steps that will help to prepare a good cycle count. Then we have, here we have 6 steps in planning phase, and this is what we are going to see in today's session. Then we have 4 steps. Oh. Okay, I lost my mouse. We have 4 steps in the inventory count phase itself. This is the phase we saw together when we were doing the GDP Cycle 1 training, if you recall. And we have other extra 3 steps in here represented in blue color. And they are the steps to follow in order to clearing differences after the cycle count has been made at the warehouse. As I said, today we will focus on the green steps. So as an introduction, I just wanted to reinforce that all movements of stock perform at the inventory level, meaning those materials that belong to a storage location and they are physically stored in a warehouse. All the movement of this type of materials must be followed by the corresponding warehouse transactions. In other words, if we make movements to the inventory, they must be followed by movements in warehouse. And what these reports are showing to us is that there is not always a linkage between these two. There are movements in inventory and they are not followed always by the corresponding movement in the warehouse. As an example, there are goods received, which is a movement in the inventory, goods received in storage location. This is a chain that represents that they need to be followed by a put away in the warehouse. Likewise, goods issue from the storage location's inventory must be linked to a picking from the warehouse, and a transfer either of stock status or material or location must be followed by a posting change in the warehouse. The left column represents movements at the inventory level. The right column represents movements in the warehouse level, and they are, as represented by the chain, they have to be linked and, yeah, one to each other. The high-level process for the counting and controlling, as I said, it consists of 3 phases. Here, we are going to see the phase number 1, which is the planning for the inventory counting and controlling. The phase number 2 is the phase that you already know, the phase that inventory counting and controlling itself. The blue arrows represent steps that are done in the system in Umoja. This WebEx is going to go through the 6 steps that will help to prepare the inventory count exercise. And the first one of them is to identify the materials and the bins that we are going to perform the count. The second one will be to clear the materials that are lying in the interim storage types. The third step will be to close the transfer requirements that remain open. The fourth step will be to close the posting change notice that needs to be closed. The fifth step will be to confirm those transfer orders that are open. And the last step is to check if there is any physical inventory document that is already open and active. All of this is advisable to be done by those of you who hold the role of warehouse senior user. And all of these are just reports that will help you to cleanse your data. Then, when it comes to the inventory counting and controlling exercise itself, you will perform a series of steps. You will create the physical inventory document in Umoja. Then you will go to the warehouse and to conduct the physical count. It is done outside the system. Then you will go back to Umoja and will enter the count results. And if there are differences, you will post the differences in the system. As I said, this WebEx will focus on the planning the inventory count. The better we plan, the more successful will be the inventory count and control exercise itself. As I said, it consists of 6 reports, and this is an overview of the 6 reports. The first one is about identifying the materials and the bins by executing a warehouse stock report to review and confirm the bins to be counted. Secondly, we will clear the staging storage types. And the purpose is to check that there are no pending warehouse transactions that misplace units in staging storage types while they are physically inside a warehouse. Another report is in order to check that in Umoja there are no pending warehouse transactions for those items that are physically already in the bin. We will also process or close open posting change notices. So we will check that there are no pending transfer orders related to transfers between storage locations or material to material or change of the status. We will confirm open transfer orders. And lastly, we will make sure that there are no open or partially processed inventory documents, as the cycle count involves creating a new one. Moreover, if there is an active inventory document, it will freeze the bin and it will not allow us to perform any of the previous transactions. So preparation, the first step to prepare the cycle count is to identify materials and bins. Is the T code LX02 warehouse stock report that is going to allow us to identify the materials and the bins that are going to be subject to the count. Here we have a picture and we see a library with books. As you know, the counting exercise is based on bin. So what we want to know is that we want to check if the material, in this case the yellow book, is lying all of them in the same bin or is spread in different bins in a warehouse. If we are aware of this situation, then the probabilities of having a good cycle count are greater. So both physically and system-wise, the same material, in this case the yellow books, may be stored in more than one bin within a storage type. And since inventory differences in warehouse are calculated by storage bin, if not all relevant storage bins of the material are considered when we count them physically, the inventory count result might be misleading. This is a screenshot of the report, and this is an example. In this example, it shows that for the product ID paper sterilization, there are 196 units in 2 different bins and in a staging area. What happens? If we do not take into account this data, we may conclude that there is a mismatch between the physical numbers and the numbers that throw Umoja. So once we have identified where is the paper in these 2 bins in a staging area, we can take action on it. Other important information is the column of available stock, which will tell you the quantity, the units available for that material in that bin. In this case, we know that in the storage type 001 and the storage bin A1, there are 95 units. In the bin SHL 010101, there is 1 unit. And in a staging area 911, there is 100 units. In total, there is 196. The column called IA stands for inventory active, and it's an indicator if the bin is blocked because accounting is already being performed. This is important as to know. Then we will have another column that states the inventory record, and it will inform you about the last warehouse count document created for that bin. And also we will get information on the date of the last warehouse count for that bin. Okay, this is one note and one recommendation. The recommendation is that if it is found that a product ID does not match with the physical description that you see in the warehouse, please do not use the cycle count exercise in order to write it off from inventory and warehouse of the wrong product ID and increase the numbers, the quantity of the correct product ID. Do not do it while the cycle counts. In other words, do not write off and dispose the wrong PID and increase the quantity of the correct material during the inventory count. Instead of that, please contact the PIDO team and follow the guidelines described in the job aid for downstream issues correction job aid. Okay, because it will be a material to material change. The next report, the next action you are going to do is to check that no stock of the material being inventoried is sitting in interim storage types. The T code that we're going to use is LX03, It's a report on the bin status, and it's to be done by the warehouse senior user. Why do we want to run this report? It's because we want to move those items that are in interim staging storage location into bins so that they are included in the count document. I represented the interim storage location with this parking. So we want to remove from Umoja those quantities that are lying in interim in the parking storage type, and we want to move them into normal bins. So these are a list of the most common interim storage types. So is the storage type for goods received, for goods issue, for stock transfers, differences, and returns. We want to clean these storage types before conducting the inventory count. This is a screenshot of all the staging storage types, and they are not necessarily used in your mission. Here we have an example of a ticket raised to Umoja support in Brindisi, and it's related to this stage, this preparation. The ticket subject was how to clear differences in storage type 999. So a mission contacted Umoja support in order to get help in clearing quantities that are sitting in the storage type 999 in their mission. Let me elaborate a little bit more on the description of the issue. They describe that as a result from the disposal process and issuing to scrap, the system has moved the items into the storage type 999 in a bin named scrap. Okay, so there are some items there. This is the screenshot. And the question was how to clear those quantities lying in the storage type 999. What is the way forward? Umoja support did an analysis and concluded that the disposal process is an integrated process between the inventory management and warehouse management modules. As I said, remember the chains that we pictured some slides earlier. They need to be one sec. Wow. They need to be linked one to the other. In the disposal process, it's a specific scenario is described in the user guide for warehouse management, but let me summarize what are the different steps because I want to show you that it is true. There is one inventory transaction followed by one or two warehouse transactions. The arrows in blue color represent the warehouse transactions, and the arrows in yellow color represents the inventory transactions. The first step was to move the items to the disposal area in the warehouse and to confirm it. The second step was to transfer the stock, so from unrestricted to blocked, because the items have been identified for disposal. So this is an inventory transaction, and the purpose is to mark the item as blocked. They are not anymore available to use as unrestricted because they have been identified that they are for disposal. So in the system-wise in Umoja, it is represented by a transaction called Migo and a movement type 344. As I said, any inventory transaction must be followed by warehouse transaction. So this transaction in inventory must be followed by a transfer order for transfer posting by using the T code LT06. This is an exceptional situation as these, for these instances, the transfer order does not need to be confirmed by the warehouse user as there is no physical movement of the items. The next step is to perform another inventory transaction, which is to reduce the inventory levels and to move them to scrap. It is done by using the T code MIGO, the movement type 555, and I said every inventory transaction must be followed by a warehouse transaction. The warehouse transaction is to create a transfer order for final disposal by creating it manually by using the T code LT01 and placing them in destination storage type 999 and in a bin called scrap. These are exceptional scenarios as transfer orders shall be, as a general rule, created automatically, okay, by using the T code LT06. But in the case of disposal process, the transfer order shall be created manually, okay, by using the T code LT01. In the screenshot earlier, we saw that the items were already placed in the storage type 999 in a bin called scrap, and the mission was contacting in order to find out what was the next step to move out the items from there. So the next step is, if the items are physically out of the warehouse, to confirm that this TO has been executed and the items are not anymore in these interim storage types. Basically, the solution to the ticket is that the user, the warehouse user, needs to complete the final warehouse transaction. So the mission arrived all the way to here. There was nothing in the inventory. They were in the warehouse-wise, they were in a storage type 999 in a bin called scrap, and they just needed to confirm that the items have been removed.
All right, thanks, Elena. Thank you for going over that. I know that some of you are asking some questions in the chat, and others just may not, and just may be following and having questions and not coming up to list them. So this is the time to start intervening, because I know you guys are going to be live for some of these scenarios, especially this ticket seems to be very interesting. And I was discussing this with Elena yesterday. If you could just mute yourself 1 second.
Oh, yes.
To avoid the feedback. And we were just discussing this, and maybe Sega, I know that you're there, or Rafael, whoever can easily connect and answer this one. What if, let's say, we have a movement type that would allow us to go from unrestricted use stock to scrapping directly, right? If, let's say, we're using 551 instead of this 555 from blocked to scrapping. Can someone just say, you know what, I'm going to skip everything prior, just go step 3, issue to scrap with MIGO 551, create my manual TO, and then confirm it? Would that be a possibility? Can somebody do that? What kind of issues would this generate? Is the process always the process that is here in the 3 steps of first doing a manual TO, moving it to a disposal area, then changing its status to blocked, then doing another MIGO for scrapping, and then doing a manual TO? Could someone just basically create the MIGO for 551, this exceptional case, and just skip all the other steps? I hope I was being heard. Could you hear me on the WebEx? Yes.
Okay, is there any comment on this?
I think now you just made Sega a panelist, or I don't know if she did it herself. I think now she will be able to intervene.
I did, in case Sega, wants to add anything else. We decided to include these tickets because when we just name the reports, it seems that everybody knows the reports and the reports are quite straightforward. But this is just to show you some practicalities of some real tickets that the solution is quite easy, but you may encounter or you may have the same issues. And some of the issues can be resolved by running simple tickets It's about analyzing the issue, and maybe you have a similar situation.
All right, since I guess we're having trouble getting feedback from people in HQ, we'll just continue moving on. We'll leave that one aside. I do see that in the chat, some people are writing and saying, absolutely, yes, I'm doing it, I would do it. Of course, yes. So it seems that the step 3 could be quite a shortcut in the sense of moving something, let's say, that is from unrestricted to scrap directly with one single movement type and then a manual TO. And then, I don't know, in a case where I'm overloaded with work, I would definitely just go for that option to get it done quickly. Now, I don't know if that is the best option or not. So, of course, this is the time to start saying what is best procedure. So if no one intervenes from HQ, we'll just move on, Elena. So let's just give it a couple of seconds.
Okay. Sorry, Sadren, I'm going to decline your request to annotate. Maybe you can write in the chat. Sorry, because. Okay, you can find out more information on the step-by-step process in the user guide for warehouse management. In the presentation, you will find a link to the user guide. Let me tell you as well that this is the short version. I didn't include the step-by-step screenshots, as I assume that you know already how to execute these reports. However, if you want the long version of the presentation with the detailed step-by-step with the screenshots, please address an email to us, and we will. The presentation is already ready, so we can send it to you if you request it. Continuing with the ticket, the explanation, at the point of the screenshot in the first of these screenshots. Oh. Okay, at this point, where the items are already in an interim storage type for differences and in a scrap storage bin, they have been decreased from the inventory management side. However, the warehouse management side, they are in an interim storage location. And here, as we can see, what is missing here is the warehouse user to confirm that the items have been picked from the warehouse by confirming the final transfer order for final disposal. The issue in this case was that the warehouse part, which consists in 2 transactions, I mean, yes, the creation and the confirmation of the transfer order was not finalized. Okay, and these will be visible in the reports in the dashboard that I showed you at the beginning of the presentation. And as you can see, it has an easy solution. So step number 3, in order to prepare the cycle counts, is to process open transfer requirements. So we will tackle one of the 3 reports that I showed you as a screenshot at the beginning of the WebEx. We will process open transfer requirements by running a report by using the T-code LB10. And why to run this report? Just to make sure that the inventory transactions are closed by warehouse transactions. And why is this? Because transactions that are posted in the inventory, they trigger other financial transactions such as payments, and they should not be reversed. So once the transaction is posted in inventory, it needs to be just followed by the warehouse transactions. The report lists open transfer requirements as a result of goods issue or goods receipt, and other inventory transactions pending to be added or removed from a bin to the warehouse. And this could be an inventory transactions, and they need to be followed by, they are open because they are waiting for their corresponding warehouse transactions. Once we post, for example, goods receipt, it triggers the payment of the invoice, and we need to make sure that the put away in the warehouse is also followed. This is a note. It's just to remind you that the system is designed to link inventory transactions to warehouse transactions. So please do not leave open transfer requirements while creating on the side manual transfer orders. So you can extract the report. It will tell you those transfer requirements that are pending, that are open. Okay, this is a transfer required number. So don't leave this open in Umoja and then on the side separately create from scratch manual TOs, but using the T code LT01. This is a bad practice. The good practice is to link the transfer order to a material document. Okay, from this report itself, you can click in TO in foreground, or you can use the T code LT06. Failure to do that, it will produce inconsistencies in Umoja and in the reports. This is an example of that Umoja support in Brindisi kindly shared with us. So the ticket, the subject was that the items in warehouse cannot be reserved. So they approach Umoja support in order to seek for help, why they cannot be reserved if they are seeing that there are items from the warehouse management perspective.
Yes, thanks, Elena. Especially this scenario that you're going to explain now, we had a question from Marjolaine that was saying almost exactly this, right? I think she has the case is not exactly the same, but a very similar in the sense that the items have already been reserved, but were not issued out. Yeah, so Elena's going to go into this one, so now it's time, pay attention to this one, Marjolaine, and if we have not answered your question, let us know, and we'll see how we can do that.
Okay, Brian, thank you so much. Let me rephrase. The issue is that running a report in inventory, when trying to execute an inventory transaction, such as reservation for goods issue, the system was informing that the items cannot be reserved because there are 0 units. At the same time, running a report, another report, a warehouse report, the system was informing that yes, there are some quantities. When they wanted to use these quantities that apparently are sitting in the warehouse, they could not do it because the inventory transaction resulted in an error, gave an error. Let me describe it in other words. They are preparing their counting and controlling process. They run a report LX02, which, as you know, it's a warehouse report. And this report informs that there is a stock in a bin and in a storage type. So, okay, there is a stock. Then they need to process the goods issue. In order to do that, they want to do a reservation prior the goods issue. However, they find a problem. Umoja shows the following error message when trying to reserve the material. And what Umoja is saying is that there are 0 units available. So what is the issue here? The analysis says that the movements of goods posted against the listed materials were not allowed um, because because a reservation or a goods issue had been already processed, resulting in a quantity 0, basically. Solution. And I will repeat myself here once again, but I think that there is one message that needs to be reinforced in this WebEx, and the message is this. Every inventory transaction must be linked to a warehouse transaction. So here the issue is the same. There is no linkages between these two modules in Umoja. The goods issue posted in inventory has not been completed from the warehouse management perspective, which is why this material shows as available in running the T code LX02. In order to prevent these errors, the warehouse user role shall regularly check the outstanding actions by running the T code LB10 and checking the transfer requirements that are in status open. Okay, here is the problem that is causing the error. When you receive the presentation, you will be able to click here and to be redirected to the dashboard in your mission to check if you want to know how many open transfer requirements and for how many days they have been outstanding. So you can take action and clean all the open transfer requirements by running the T code LB10.
Okay, Elena, thank you. Just a couple of things. I think some of the participants want us to go back just to go through this scenario maybe a bit slower. But also more importantly, we have Rafael has also written in the chat, and I'm going to read it out loud so you can follow it as well. I believe he is mentioning about what you're discussing on the goods issue from a reservation. So no, it can't be. Quantity should always be the same in IM and warehouse management. What they may see is that there are some positive quantities in a bin and some negative in other bins due to the fact that there are some open warehouse transactions. But quantity in the real bin is 0. Okay, so I believe this is with reference to what you're discussing in terms of the reservation and the goods issue. The fact that even if it has been reserved or issued out, in this sense, your scenario is that these were already reserved but not issued out, correct? Okay, so in a sense what it's doing, it's blocking the bin from being issued out further. But of course, so the material in itself is sort of like in a limbo stage where it needs to be issued out because now it's in reservation. And I believe that's also what Marjolaine was saying, even though Marjolaine, in your case, you were saying that you were, after the reservation, you were proceeding to the inventory count and then realized that it was blocked. So of course, all these transactions should be done prior to the inventory count. Okay, make sure you're doing all these transactions before. Okay, reservations, goods issues, all the open TRs, all that should be cleared before. But in this case, which is a very similar case and something that's been raised a lot in troubleshooting in people in service desk in Brindisi, is that, of course, first, preparing the counting and controlling, see, the Umoja shows the following error message when trying to reserve material. It says 0 available because all have been reserved already and are waiting to be confirmed in terms of TR. Okay, so that's why the bin is actually showing empty. So I believe what Rafael is saying, and I think they're not intervening because they may have some problems with the audio, is that the real quantities in the bin are 0, even though it may show in the system positive quantities in a bin or some negative quantities in other bins, due to the fact that there are some open transactions. So you may see numbers there, positive or negative, but because there are open transactions, but actually the quantity in these bins is 0.
Exactly. It can be also the case that the items were already picked up, but it was just not done the transaction in Umoja. So there is nothing in the bin, but it's just that it was not confirmed system-wise. So if we don't have any comments, I will before. Okay. Okay. Basically, is that the inventory part was already done, so they could not do it again. It was only the warehouse part missing.
Okay, so you're basically saying here in this analysis is that the reservation was done, and also, if I'm reading correctly here, and or a goods issue, and or, so not necessarily a goods issue was performed, right? Just the reservation was done, and the goods issue was not performed, or the reservation was done and the goods issue was performed, but then we didn't do the actual transaction in the warehouse. For those two scenarios, if it's only reserved without a goods issue, that will also, of course, cause the problems later on when doing the inventory counting, just as well as if it's reserved and issued but not done in the warehouse management transaction. Correct? Okay, so in this case, it's both. All right, and the solution is basically the one you see on screen. I know somebody was asking in the chat if we could just please go over these slides, so we're doing that once again. No, that's fine. Now you're okay. So in its sense, the solution is the one you say here, right? The GI posted in IM has not been completed from warehouse management perspective, which is why this material is available in the report. Okay. So it's available in the report, but the actual bin is empty because the goods issue has been formed in MIGO. But what we haven't done is the TR, right, and the TO, and the TO side of the warehouse side of things. Okay.
Brian, I'm listening to you.
That's because
broken. Is that you?
Because we're both unmuted. Okay.
So by running these checks and balances, we will tackle these reports. Open transfer requirements. Okay. So by running these simple reports, we will be able to clean this list of open transfer requirements as of yesterday. You see some missions have quite a big number of transfer requirements, and now we know what could be the root cause, that they need to be closed by warehouse transactions. We went through the third report.
All right, so yeah, Elena is mentioning we definitely should take the 10-minute break, but before we do, just to close on this whole reservation and goods issue, because I see Rafael is also writing in the chat here, and Marjolaine says that in her case, it's the case of the goods issue was not performed, but the reservation was. Now I'm going to read out loud what Rafael is saying in the chat here. Regarding the stock reservation, I can see two scenarios, right? One, in reality, stock is 0 in warehouse management and in inventory management. Okay, so in a sense, okay, stock is 0 in both, meaning that we're creating a reservation for something that is not there. Or two, the stock is not unrestricted stock, but block stock. So if there's quantity 1 and it's in block, then Umoja will prevent the issue out. Okay, so in these cases, if I'm reading correctly, is that, if there's, let's say, one item, but it's in block stock, of course, it will be blocked, so it will prevent the goods issue. And the other one is that, in reality, the stock is 0 in warehouse and inventory management. But I believe that should show when you're doing the reservation, it should show that the stock is actually 0 or not. So in the case of Marjolaine, so only the reservation is occurring, not the goods issue, but we're performing the count, inventory count. Shouldn't that show the accurate numbers in a sense of what is in that bin, even if there's only a reservation done? Correct? Let's say this is unrestricted. I created a reservation of a material, but now when I'm performing the count, I should have no issues in terms of seeing the correct numbers of the materials. Nothing should be blocked in that sense. So now if there's a blocking afterwards, Okay, I think we're hearing sound is lost. Okay, but not for everyone. All right, so I'm going to continue. So in that sense, everything should be yes? Sega? Okay. I think Sega is trying to speak up as well. Okay, well, we'll leave that for later. So let's take the break. Let's see if we can solve these audio issues, and we'll be back in 10 minutes. Okay, so for everyone, we're just going to take the break now, see if we can solve these audio issues with HQ, and we'll be back in 10.
But I didn't understand what make it go to the reserved item in block. When they reserve when you make a reservation to get something from stock.
Hi, Sega. You're unmuted, just so you know.
Okay. Thanks.
And now we can hear you. Okay. All right.
Thank you, Brian. The main message of this WebEx is that you may receive these reports that in principle look a little bit alarming, and we wanted to provide you with some T codes that are reports, and to be able to extract the most, to interpret the information that these T codes provide, and also to pass the message that specifically for this type of reports that the PIDO team is monitoring, most of the times the issue and the solution lies on, for example here, the break of these linkages, inventory and warehouse. This is, in a nutshell, the message that we want to transmit in this WebEx. Having this clear, having these checks and balances will increase the probabilities of a successful counting exercise. We left before the break in the report number 3, in the check number 3, so we're going to process with the fourth one. Okay, the fourth one is to process open posting change notices. Okay. How to do that? By using another report. This time is the report the T code LU04. It's to display posting change notice. Why to run this report? And what is a posting change notice, first of all? Similarly to transfer requirements, posting change notices are inventory transactions. But they are special, they are not transfer requirements. They result from using those movement types that execute transfer on status of the material. Okay, so it's something similar, it's a material document similar to transfer requirement, but only produced in specific cases. And these cases are when we use movement types in MIGO that execute transfers on the status of the material. As a result, open posting change notices which is an inventory document, need to be closed by creating transfer orders prior the inventory count. What means to execute transfer on status of the material? Okay, transfers can be transfer of the status, transfer of the material, and transfer of location. Let's see. Transfer of status. Change of status is when the stock status is changed, for example, from unrestricted to blocked, and vice versa. Okay, when we perform a change in the status of the material, the system creates a posting change notice. We can also execute transfer of the material when we do material to material transfer, or we can also change the location. As an example is when we transfer in the same storage location and warehouse, or we transfer between two storage locations and warehouses linked to the same combination of fund center. So when we perform these specific tasks, the system creates a material document which is a posting change notice. The report LU04 will show those open posting change notices, and once all these open materials are converted or are followed by a transfer order in the warehouse, the list will be cleared, will be clean. Movement types in MIGO T code trigger posting change notice in the inventory management side. They need to be closed by transfer orders for posting change in the warehouse management side. So here again, the same two arrows. Example, when we use the T code MIGO and the movement types listed here in this chart, For example, when we transfer the location, we will use Migo plus one of these two, 311, 312 movement type. When we want to change the status, as we said, from unrestricted to blocked and vice versa, we will use one of these movement types. Yes, and when we transfer material to material, we will use Migo and movement type 309. In these specific scenarios, and here we see the chain again, it needs to be followed by the T code LT06 in order to create a transfer order for transfer posting. So as in the previous reports, the note is the same. The system is designed to link inventory to warehouse transactions. So do not leave posting change notice open, and on the side, parallel, besides that, create manually a transfer order, because then the data, the quality of the data will be inaccurate, and then we will see the reports, the dashboard and the reports show there as pending transactions to be done. So don't undo. Do not execute the, do not leave posting change notices open, as in this example. The movement type was 309, and then we have an open transaction. And then you don't create a manual TO from scratch by using the T code LT01, but instead of that, you link the transfer order to the posting change number. So from the same T code, you can move forward by clicking here, create transfer order. You select the posting change notice and then you proceed. So the system will be cleaned, nothing pending. And here it's another example. I hope the examples are useful to understand, and maybe you have encountered some similar examples. The subject of the ticket was converting materials from block stock to unrestricted stock, and somehow they encounter an issue there. So the description is that they cannot perform goods issue as items are in block stock status. The analysis shows that the status blocked prevents goods issue. Status transfer from block to unrestricted is needed, first of all, prior to do the goods issue, and then it needs the status change needs to be followed by a transfer order for transfer posting, referencing the material number and confirmation of the TO. Then we need to perform a goods issue, and then we need to create and confirm the transfer order linked to that goods issue. Solution. So it will be, first of all, to change the status, okay, from block stock to unrestricted stock. This is done by using the T code Migo, and as you know, it's an inventory transaction. Then it needs to be linked to a warehouse transaction, which is the transfer order for transfer posting, and is by executing the T code LT06. And later on, when you want to issue the goods, you will do again an inventory transaction, which is goods issue, and you will perform the creation and confirmation of the transfer order when the items are actually picked up from the warehouse. So should a transfer order be created without reference to the material document for transfer posting, and the transfer order is created from scratch? One sec. This link will be broken as the inventory part would be completed. However, the system would reflect that there is pending follow-on warehouse transactions. So when we say completed, means that it's open and cannot be completed, as it would create a negative stock in inventory management, as it has been created on the side manually a transfer order, so it will be two duplicates. There is a workaround. So changing the status to you as per screenshot. As I said, this is a workaround, but this is not the the most recommendable way of doing the transaction. So let me, okay, this is the last report in order to clean the inventory, clean the data in preparation for the inventory count. And the last report is to confirm open transfer orders that are for the materials. The T code is LT23. It's a report. And why to run this report is because this report shows transfer orders that have been created by the warehouse senior user, and it's pending closure by the warehouse user. Basically, I hope that this drawing represents what is the status. Warehouse senior user indicated an action that needs to be performed, and it's Umoja-wise, it needs to be confirmed by the warehouse user that the items were moved. The aim is to get confirmation that the items have been moved according to the source storage type and bin to the destination storage type and bin. This is a screenshot of the report. It will tell you from where to where a material needs to be moved. And this is like an order made from the warehouse senior user, and the warehouse user has not confirmed in the system that this movement was done. In this case, in this screenshot, 902, as you know, is good receipt. So the warehouse user instructed the item to be moved from the staging area for goods receipt to the shell, to the bin C1. So if this was physically done, it needs to be system-wise done. So this was the last report that we wanted to show you in order to prepare your cycle count. The last thing is to check that there are not open physical inventory docs already created. We will do that. We will do that by running the T code LX22 inventory overview. And why do we run this report? Is because all previous inventory documents must be cleared or deleted before initiating a new physical inventory. We want to make sure that no inventory document is already activated, as it blocks warehouse transactions and the previous steps will not be executed. So this is the last check before running the actual inventory count. This is a summary, a list of the T codes. The good thing is that they are not new to you, and they are quite easy to extract. Now we know some practical applications of the reports and how they can benefit to cleanse the data. I included here as well the support model for the Piro project. So the first thing that you need to do is, if you have any doubts when executing your transactions, is to seek for help in job aids or training guides. then you will, if you are not able to solve the issue by yourself, then you will need to seek for help to your LPET. If still the problem persists, this step is new, step number 3. If there appear to be a mixture of different materials in the same bin or other issues related to the accuracy of the data, you need to seek advice from the PIDO team in your mission. For example, as we mentioned earlier, material to material transfers or any other preparation of the inventory that you need further help, you can contact the PIDO team in your mission. If still the issues are not resolved, then you will contact your service desk at your mission. And it's the service desk who will escalate the issue if it still persists. So please do not contact directly HQ or Umoja support. Follow this process. The service desk in your mission will contact Umoja Support Center based in Brindisi, and they are the ones to escalate the issue to HQ, to the relevant business area in HQ. HQ will be analyzing issues that are escalated by Tier 2A only. Any matters that are escalated directly to HQ other than PIDO team and or raised through Umoja support will be sent back to the local service desk for the initial review. In other words, please follow the support model. The last step at your mission, it will be to contact the local service desk, and they will be able to follow on the issue. I listed here some user guides and job aids that you may want to check as part of the step 1 of the support model. And this is all I wanted to present from my side. It's 23 past 4. We have some minutes left. Now the floor is yours in case any one of you want to comment anything or you want to review any of the reports. It's your turn.
Thank you, Elena. Thanks for that. And yeah, we're going to leave the time open and whatever's left of the time for you guys to ask us any questions. Maybe if Sega or Rafael want to intervene, add something, maybe clarify some thoughts, now's the time too. And before we go to that, I see Michael, you wrote on the chat, if the workaround are not business solution, do you think it's good discussing the same? I'm not sure I understand fully. If you want to speak up, I can unmute you to maybe clarify that. But all these workarounds are directly coming from the Pyro team. So in a sense, these are not really workarounds, but this is what you should be doing before you perform the physical count. And so in a sense, it should not create more errors, but avoid them in a way. Okay, so if you wish to speak up, I can unmute you, just let me know. And if Sega or Rafael, you want to intervene, or anyone else wants to ask a question, maybe bring up a scenario that you may be facing in the mission presently, now is the time to do so. Yes, Elena, we actually do have a couple of comments now popping up in the chat. I'm going to take a look at them and see. Okay, my sound is fine. All right, let's see here. So, well, performing material-to-material transfer using movement type 309. There's an issue preventing us to proceed for serialized equipment. Okay, what is the solution? So there's an issue preventing us from to move on. Okay, if I'm not mistaken, Elena, one of your first slides, right, was saying that if before you perform this transaction, correct, you should address it with the Pyro team to see if some of these transactions require a bit more of just, just do the Migo and perform the transaction itself. So maybe this is one of those cases you should address to the Pyro team, because this movement type specifically, especially for serialized equipment, may be a little more complex than just creating this movement type and then changing the information of the material. So this is one of those issues that Elena was mentioning. I think is this what you're showing on screen now?
Yes, yes. It's not an easy, it's not an easy process, so there are some job aids that support, that guides you how to do it, but also there is the Pyro team in your mission. The main idea is to solve these issues before the counting, the inventory count, not doing everything at the same time. Thank you.
Okay, and actually, yeah, Rafael has just added in the chat here that they shouldn't use 309 to transfer materials with different serialization profiles. It's mentioned in the job aid. Okay, so exactly right. It's just not as simple as performing this transaction and that's it, right? Some of these materials are quite more complex. So definitely refer to the job aids, as Rafael and Elena have been mentioning. And besides that, also we have from Sina, problems of discrepancies that were a result of GDP, quite a surprise there, okay, and the migration, and would like to discuss separately. So yes, definitely please, if one of the transactions is not directly related to preparing for the physical count, then yes, can address it separately, because if not, we would just have this WebEx session open for days to solve every other issue. But this may also be one of those situations where we may need to address it to the Pyro team, depending on what situation it is. So if you want to forward us that email, definitely send us an email with this discrepancy, and we can see how to go from there. Okay, we have one more here. This may be for the next WebEx. Why was it decided that it is necessary to block an entire bin when you're only looking for a particular item? Okay, so in a sense, really not decided. If you're performing the physical count of a particular bin, the bin will be, in a sense, blocked. So it's not really a decision made, but it's what the system will do once you start the count of a particular bin. And until you're done with the count and perform the clearance, then you won't be able to, let's say, access this bin as you would do before the count is performed. So once you perform the count, you should go through the whole process.
Yes, the idea is that while you are counting the items that are in a bin, you will not be putting in and picking other items in the same bin. So SAP works like this, and this is the rationale and the design of the bin. Just the moment that you are counting, it is blocked. If you need to put away or pick items up from the bin, you need to not to do it at the same time that you are doing inventory count. Again, this is one more reason to prepare all the cleansing of the data prior actually executing the inventory count.
Yeah, you're muted, Elena. So.
Yes, the count is by bin, correct. But maybe you want to have an overview of how many bins in a warehouse hold the particular item that you are going to count. And if you need to move them to the same bin, you can do it prior to the inventory count. It's a good idea to have an overview. If remember the slide that there were yellow books, to have an idea. If you are going to count a book, yes, maybe do you think all of them are in the same bin? It may be that they are in different bins as well.
And yes, sorry, Leah, can you just mute yourself quickly so there's less echo? Thank you. Yes, right after this session, you will receive the next invitation for the next WebEx. Okay, so what Elena has presented today is extremely important in the sense of preparation for what we're supposed to be doing on Thursday. Okay, but on Thursday, we're not only going to focus on the steps to do the physical count, which could be quite simple if you just, let's say, download the user guide. It breaks it down step by step, T-code by T-code. It's quite simple. But we're also going to be understanding in terms of clearing differences in warehouse management and inventory management, and the types of issues you can encounter if you're not doing things correctly. And the majority of those things that you're not doing correctly are the things that Elena is explaining today. All the preparation prior to the physical count. Okay, if you just jump into a physical count automatically without doing any of the steps that Elena has been mentioning today, you will encounter definitely some issues in terms of clearing differences. So yeah, we'll send the invitation, and we'll also share the presentations and WebEx recordings for all these sessions. And Sega, I know you're there. I heard you speaking before. I know Rafael has been quite active in the chat, and thank you guys for that participation. If you want to speak up, or if you can, maybe you're having some technical issues, and you want to close the session with some comments, Rafael, same for you.
So it seems that there are no more comments. Some of you have been a little bit silent, Hatim, etc. And we hope this WebEx was useful. If you are approached by the PIRO team with these 3 reports, the dashboard, you know that there are some T-codes that will help you to understand the situation, and which is probably linked, which is probably related to this and link between the inventory and warehouse transactions. I hope that you enjoyed as much as we did, and thank you so much for attending this WebEx. See you in a couple of days. We really hope it was useful, and yeah, we remain at your disposal. And we're going to send you the presentation. We're going to stop the recording.